Alright, welcome back to a brand new video. In this video, I'm going to show you how we can actually handle subcommands. This is actually going to be a little bit more difficult, and the reason why is because it's not going to be just this linear, this linear direction of how regular chat input commands work. Because with subcommands, you can have a subcommand group, and that subcommand group can have its own set of subcommands, right? And it's just really tedious, so I'm not going to bother explaining too much of it to scare you all away. I'm just going to explain to you what we're going to do, and hopefully it will make sense. Okay, so a couple things that I want to mention is that there's going to be a couple of assumptions that we will be making. And this is based off of what the Discord documentation has, documented down. So if you look at the Discord documentation, they give you valid and invalid structures for the subcommands. So if you look over here under the subcommands and subcommand groups section on the application commands docs, you'll see that you can have a base command, and then that base command can have any number of subcommands you want. The base command can also have a subcommand group as well, and the subcommand group can have any number of subcommands. Okay, so we can see over here we have a command and then subcommand group. And then what's also valid is you can have a subcommand group, and you can also just have a regular subcommand. Okay, now what's invalid is you cannot have a subcommand group inside a subcommand group. Now, this actually is good for us because we can assume that there will never be an instance where the depth of our subcommands will be more than 2. And what I mean by that is you'll have the base command that you can think of this as level 1, and then you go one more level down, level 2. So that will be either a command, like the subcommand, or it'll be a subcommand group. Okay, and then after the subcommand group, you'll have the actual subcommand, which I guess this will be level 3, but it will never be more than that. Okay, so since you cannot have a subcommand group inside a subcommand group, that just basically means that if there is a subcommand group, then every single command or every single thing that will be inside that subcommand group will always be a subcommand, and it will not be a group. Okay, and knowing this actually simplifies our implementation a lot more, so we actually don't even need to worry about checking nested subdirectories after we step into the subcommand group. And you'll see that when we implement it in the code. Okay, it's not going to be like our current commands folder where we can have unlimited amounts of nested subdirectories inside other subdirectories, and it'll just recursively call the register commands function over and over again until we reach a directory that has no subdirectories, right? With subcommands, we know that once there is a subcommand group, that is it. There can be no subcommand group inside that subcommand group. So we're done. Everything inside that subcommand group is just assumed to be a subcommand, okay? And you can see over here that you cannot have, I guess these two are the same, aren't they? Invalid. Oh, wait, okay. So, yeah, likewise, you cannot have a subcommand group inside of a subcommand, which makes sense. Okay, so knowing these two things, we can assume a couple things, right? Subcommand group cannot nest another subcommand group. So if you have a group, you never have to worry about checking if there is, a quote-unquote subgroup option, which is good. And then 2, a subcommand cannot nest a subcommand group. So this is actually going to help us with our file structure system. So the way that we're going to structure our subcommands in our files is like this. We're going to create a separate folder because we don't want to actually mix subcommands with regular commands. If we do that, it's going to be really annoying because we are going to rely on the file system to take care of registering each subcommand. If we mix everything together, it's going to be really annoying and really frustrating and make it a lot more complicated. So we'll have a subcommands folder, and we will create a separate function to register those subcommands. The same way that we did with register commands in the first video, we will create a separate helper function to register all of these subcommands for us. And the way our structure will look like is this. So we'll have, let's say for example, we'll have a I don't know, party subcommand. Okay, so the name of the subfolder will be the name of the subcommand. Okay, and inside the folder, if we create a subfolder, that will be the name of the group. So we'll call it group A just for example. And since you cannot have a group inside another group, every single file inside that group folder must be a regular JavaScript or TypeScript file. So we'll never have directories in that file. So for example, we can name the files the name of our subcommand that belongs to this group. So I'll just call this start.js, end.js. Okay, I'm only going to show you how the file structure will work first. Okay, so we have party is the base subcommand. So when we actually want to invoke this command, we would do /party. Okay, and then the group name, so group A, and then the name of the actual subcommand, so whatever it is, so either it's end or start. Okay, so and then because we can also have subcommands outside of the group but inside the subcommand itself, so if you look at the docs again, you can have a subcommand group as well as a subcommand on the same level. Okay, on the same level. So outside of the group, I'm going to create a file, and I'll call this, you know, you can call this whatever you want. I'll just call this random. Okay, so this command would be /party random. That's how you would invoke that subcommand. Okay, and then every other file that we create inside this party folder will just be its own subcommand. It's not going to be a subcommand group. Okay, so the way that we're doing this is subcommand groups are treated as directories. Okay, and then inside those directories we'll have the actual subcommand itself. Okay, and then every file outside of a subdirectory, or I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Every single file, a regular JavaScript file that's inside our subcommand folder, will be the actual subcommand itself. Okay, so to show you another example, if I were to create another folder, and let's just say I call this music, right? Music would be the base subcommand, so we would invoke it like this /music. Okay, and if this music subcommand were to have a group, right, we would create a subfolder, and I can call this whatever I want. Let's say, let's call this group, let's call this EDM for EDM music, right? So I would do music /EDM, and then whatever command name, so play.js for example. So that would look like music EDM play, like that. Okay, and then if we had a regular JavaScript file inside the music directory but outside the EDM group folder, so let's just call this music, let's just call this shuffle.js. So the way that you would invoke this command is shuffle, or music /music shuffle, like that. So it's really important that I'm explaining this, because if I don't explain this, all of you are going to be confused. This is the way that we're going to do it. There probably are other ways that you can handle this as well, but I couldn't think of a better way that would not conflict with the file system of our commands folder and all of our other regular / commands. So I think this is a good way to do it. So I'll show you how we can go ahead and implement this. One more thing that I do want to mention, and again, these are my notes that I had written down as I was implementing this, right? So the way that this is going to work is we will create another collection. So similar to how we created this client./commands property on the client instance, and the type is a collection, right? We will go ahead and create one for subcommands. So I'll go ahead and do client./subcommands like this, and this will be a collection. Okay, and this is basically going to be a collection of subcommands that actually map to a collection. Okay, so you can see over here that this is a property. It maps to an object. The object is just going to be a collection or map, right? So you can think of this as a map, and then this map has its own key value pairs. Okay, and this key is going to map to another map. So it's basically going to be about 3 levels of maps if you think about it, right? So we have a map where the actual subcommand is going to map to a subcommand instance, and I'll show you how we'll build this out. that subcommand instance will have its own map or collection that will manage each group and subcommand. Okay, and the thing is, like I said, the reason why subcommands are kind of annoying to handle dynamically is because if we have groups, right, we need to make sure we are managing that group by having its own collection. Now, I'm going to use collection and map interchangeably, okay? So I don't want to confuse you all. So I'll just use collection for the rest of this video. So each group is going to have its own collection because each group is supposed to have its own set of subcommands, right? But that will only be if it's a group. If it's not a group, it will just map to its class, and that class will, of course, have its own run method that it will be used to invoke. Okay, so hopefully you all don't get lost as I am explaining everything, because this is going to be a lot of stuff. We've already spent about 10 minutes explaining everything. So, but I'll do my best to explain everything as much as I can. So let's go ahead and get started. So there's a couple of constraints that we are going to set ourselves based on this implementation. Every single subcommand folder, well, first of all, every single inside the subcommands folder, we must have a subfolder for the actual subcommand. That is a must. Okay. Inside each subcommand folder, we will need to have an index.js file. This index.js file is going to export a class. So I'll call this party subcommand. And this class itself will need to extend another class. And that other class, it's going to be really similar to base/command, except it'll just have more properties. So we'll create a new file. We'll call this base subcommand.js. I'll just call this, I'll call this base/subcommand.js. Let's copy this, paste this here, change this to base/subcommand. So this class will take in, I think it will take in 3 properties. So we'll need the base command. So the base command will be literally like the name of the subfolder, so music, party, etc., etc. Okay, so we have the base command. I think we'll also need the groups as well. So groups. So that will be, like whatever groups we have. So all the subfolders inside of the subcommands folder, right? And I think the last thing that we'll need will be the name of the subcommand. Let me fix this typo. It's supposed to be subcommand, not subcommand, okay? So we have the base command, the groups, and then the name of the command. So let me just set this. Let me just assign the values that we're passing to the constructor. Okay, and I think the last thing will be literally okay. So remember how I said that each subcommand, if it's a group, right, it's going to need to map to another map. So so for example, in the code when we are handling our subcommands, we'll need to check to see if the command itself is a subcommand group or a subcommand. If it's a subcommand group, we'll need to reference the map, which is a property on the base/subcommand instance, right? And then that'll give us this part over here, which we can then get the correct subcommand that belongs to that group. Okay, so we'll define a property called, I guess we'll call this group commands. And this will be a new collection. And we can instantiate it like this. Okay. Yeah, I think this is fine. So let's continue. So we'll implement the rest of the getters. So get base command. Can't type today for some reason. And then we'll do the same for groups and group commands. So groups. Whoops. And then group commands. Okay, and of course, if it's not a group, if it's not a subcommand group, it'll just map instead of mapping to the collection, it will actually just map to the instance of the subcommand, which again, we'll have to do this when we actually register these into our code. So let's go ahead and fix this last part, and then we should be good to go with that. Okay, so now we're going to take this class and we're going to extend it for all of our subcommands. So party subcommand extends base/subcommand, and we will need to import this, of course. So const base/subcommand equals require, and then we will import this from the utils folder. So we have to go out to directories. So dot slash utils base/subcommand, and there we go. So now we will implement the constructor, and then we will call the superclasses constructor, which is base/subcommand, and then we just pass in the base command. So this is going to be a little bit tricky because this is the party subcommand, right? So I think what we'll do is this. We can go ahead and pass in party. Groups is going to be an array. The name will be the name of the subcommand itself. Well, actually, you know what? This is actually, you know what? I kind of messed up. There's no name property for this. It should just be, I believe it should just be name, I think. Okay, sorry about this, but I'm going to fix this up a little bit. So, there's going to be just, there's going to be no base command name. It's just going to be name. And then so it'll be this dot underscore name equals name. So that'll be the name of the base subcommand, okay? So we're just changing that part. Groups will stay the same. We will also need to pass in a subcommands. And this will be an array. So this will actually allow us to know what subcommands we need to actually register. And that's actually not going to belong to the group. It's actually just going to be regular subcommands, not subcommand groups. And you'll see how this will look like in a second. So let's do this dot subcommands equals subcommands, and we'll get rid of base command groups, and let's just create another getter for subcommands. Okay, there we go. So now that we have our base/subcommand, okay, what we want to do is let's go back into the index.js file. Okay, so what we're going to do is, yes, we are going to pass in the name of the slash command, the base slash command. So that will be passed into the superclasses constructor. So that'll be party. And then we need to pass in the array of groups, and I'll show you how this will look like. So we're going to have just an array of objects. Each object is going to follow the structure of name. So this will be the group name. So I'll call this group A, and you must make sure that it matches the subfolder. Okay, where again we are creating these implications, right? These group names must match, or the group name must have a folder that exists inside its subcommand folder. Okay, otherwise it's not going to work. And then the next property will be the subcommands for the actual group, and this is just going to be an array, because remember, each subcommand group can have its own set of subcommands. Okay, so I'll just call this, you know what, let me fix this up a little bit. So this is for party. So let's just do start, end, like that. Okay, so that's going to be for group A, and then if we wanted to create a group B, we could do that as well. So I'll do that real quick, and I'll just copy these two files and just paste this right over here. Okay, so let me just copy this, change this to group B, and we'll have the same, so we'll have the same exact subcommand. So in case you didn't know, if you have two different subcommand groups, they can have the same subcommand names, if that makes sense. So group A has start and end, group B also has start and end, and you can have that because they're in different groups. Okay, and then the third parameter for the constructor will just be the actual subcommands. So these will be the subcommands that are outside of the subcommand group. So you can see over here, subcommand group, subcommand. Okay, so these subcommands we only have one, so I'll just be random, the name of this file over here. And then that will be pretty much it. Okay, we could actually just pass in the collection if we wanted to for group commands, but I'll just let the constructor of base/command take care of that itself. Okay, so now that we have done this, the index.js file is also going to need its own get/command JSON method. Okay, now you're probably wondering, well, does this class need the run method? So if you look at our regular /commands, every /command has its own run method, right? So you're probably wondering, well, will this subcommand have its own run method? The answer is no, and the reason why is because according to the Discord docs, if you use subcommands, you cannot use the base command itself. Okay, so there really is no point of us having a run method. So we can actually just get rid. We don't even need to include that. Okay, but we do in fact need the get/command JSON method. So the same exact method that we have in our regular /commands, right? And this is basically the method that's going to return the JSON that we will pass through the Discord API. So this is basically where we will actually create the instance of the /command builder, register the command metadata, all the subcommands, everything will be happening inside here. And then when we need to actually call this method, we will do it the same way that we did when we registered our /commands, right? So let's go ahead and return the /command builder instance. So that'll be imported up top here. The class is going to be imported up top here. And then we'll just go ahead and set up a simple subcommand for this. So we'll set the name. So name of this will be party. Description will be party commands. And then we will need to set up two groups, group A and group B. So call add subcommand group. Okay. And this will take in a callback function. And then we'll get the group instance. So this is a /command subcommand group builder. So we'll call group.setName. So the name of this group will be group A. And again, it needs to match, okay, the subfolders. Okay. Set description, group A, party commands. And then we can go ahead and add the subcommands for group A. So we'll have two. It'll just be start and end. So subcommand. So add subcommand takes in the callback function, and that callback function has the argument, the subcommand instance. So we'll call subcommand.setName. So this will be start, that's the name of the subcommand, for group A. And then we'll just set the description. And of course, if you want to add options for the subcommand, you could do that. But I will not do that. Okay? And then we'll go ahead and add another subcommand. I'll just copy and paste this. And I'll just change this to end. Here we go. So we have our group A commands set up. We'll set up one for group B next. So all we have to do is just call add subcommand group again. Change up the names. So this will be group B. Okay. And then we are done with our subcommand groups. And then we can go ahead and add a subcommand for the party base command. So we have one for random. So I'll call add subcommand. And I'll just copy this line over here, paste this here, change this to random. And then we'll just call this description randomize a party. Okay, so now we will have a total of 5 commands, 2 subcommand groups. Both of our subcommand groups have 2 commands each, and then we have 1 subcommand. Okay, so that should be good to go with this index.js file. Okay, so let me just stress the index.js file and what its importance is for. Every single subfolder will have an index.js file. Okay, so the music folder will also have an index.js file. This file is important because this is where we're going to define all of the metadata of the subcommand, and this is where we're going to implement the get/command JSON method. Okay, and this is where we're going to actually register the slash command, or not register slash command, but set the metadata for the slash command, add any subcommand groups, any subcommands, options, all that kind of stuff. Okay, and then when we're ready to send all this data to the API, we'll do that inside the index.js file, which I'll show you how we do that later. So every subcommand folder must have this index.js file. Okay, the other files, so for example, in our subcommand files, right, we are going to have a class, a custom class that will only have properties, and then it'll have the run method. Okay, so the base slash subcommand, this class over here, will not have the run method, right? Because like I said, you cannot execute a base subcommand without the actual subcommand itself. Okay, but for the actual subcommand class itself, it will have the run method, and you'll see how all of that mapping will work. Okay, but now that we're done with the index.js file, what we want to do next is this. We want to go ahead and create it for music as well. So I'll just copy all of this. I'll create a new file, call it index.js, paste this here, and we'll just call this music subcommand. And again, we're going to make sure everything matches our file structure. So really the only limitation is that you must make sure everything matches your file structure, or else you're going to run into issues. Okay? But if you don't have a problem with that, it should be fine. So what I'll do is I'll change the group to EDM, and it will only have one subcommand called play, and we'll get rid of this group, and then we'll change random to shuffle because we only have one subcommand. Okay, so we're done with this. We'll change all of this stuff over here. So set name music, set the description, set it to music commands. The group, of course, is just going to be EDM, and I'll just call this music EDM commands. And we only have one subcommand, so I'll delete this second add subcommand method call. Set the name to play, and we'll just set the description to plays an EDM song. Okay, and that's the only group that we have, so I'll delete this add subcommand group method call. And then we have one add subcommand method right over here. We'll just change this from random to shuffle. And we'll just call this description shuffles a song, something like that, right? And then we're done with this. Okay, so when we are ready to register our code into memory, so basically when we map the subcommand names to the subcommand instance, we'll read this subcommands folder. We'll import the index.js file manually inside each subfolder, and then we'll instantiate the base slash subcommand instance, so music subcommand as well as party subcommand, and then we'll map the name of the subcommand, the base subcommand, to this instance. Okay, so you know what? I think we should do that first before we continue. Otherwise, we're going to be very, very lost. Okay, so let's go into our index.js file. So we already dynamically added this property slash subcommands to the client instance, and this is also a collection. So what we will need to do is this. We'll need to go ahead and call a similar function like we did with register commands. So we'll go inside registry.js, and we'll create a function, and I'll call it register application subcommands. You don't have to call it this. You can just call it register subcommands if you want to. Okay, I'll just shorten the function call, and I'll just call it this. So it'll take in the same arguments, client, and then the directory. I'll just go ahead and set the directory to a default value of /subcommands. Okay, so let's go ahead and call this function, and we'll call it right after we call register commands. So await register subcommands client, and since we have that default value set over here, we don't need to pass in the actual directory. Okay, but of course, if your subcommands are in a different folder, you can just manually pass in that folder yourself. Let's make sure we also export this function. Okay, And then we should also make sure we import it up top here. There we go. Okay, so we are calling register subcommand. So is this function going to look similar to register commands? The answer to that is no, not entirely. And let me explain why. So in the register commands folder, it was actually necessary that we needed to use recursion because there's no limitation to how we want to structure our files, because really every single file is just a regular command that has its own run function. So when you invoke that slash command, it will execute that same code. It's different from a subcommand because a subcommand has has its own set of subcommands. So you need to determine which subcommand to actually execute. So it's a lot different than the actual regular slash command itself, right? You've basically added a new condition that you have to check for subcommands, okay? And because subcommands are actually have its own strict structure, you cannot have nested subcommand groups inside a subcommand group, which makes it a lot easier. So we can assume that all of our subcommand folders will never have nested groups inside a group. So for example, EDM is the group name. I will never have a group inside this EDM. So we can assume that we will never create a folder inside the group folder itself. So I'll never have something like, playlist, for example. So we will never have a subcommand group inside our EDM subcommand group. So we are basically using that to our advantage. So we are assuming it. But of course, if you were to create this folder, it will pretty much break the whole entire logic. So that's why we have to be very strict about this. Okay, that's why we're setting these parameters to ensure that we follow this exact structure. Otherwise, it will not work. Okay, but of course, later on, if you want, you can add your own validation, but we're not going to worry about that for right now. Okay, so that's why for register subcommands function, we don't need to worry about recursion. The only thing that we'll need to do is this. So we'll copy and paste all of this because we will definitely need the file path as well as the files that are read in the directory, but we don't need all this logic over here. Okay, so what we want to do is this. Let me save. So we have the file path, so that will give us the correct directory to read the subcommands. Okay, and then we're going to read all of the files inside the subcommands folder. So actually, there shouldn't be any regular JavaScript files inside the subcommands folder. It should just all be folders. Okay, so what happens here is this. So we're going to basically loop through each file. So I'll show you how this looks like. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and console log each file, and you'll see that it'll log music and then party, which are the subcommands. So let me go into my console, and let me just run. I think I'm using, am I using yarn? I think I'm using npm. So let's do npm, or I'll just do node./source index.js. Okay, watch this. So you'll see that right up top over here, it logs music and it logs party. Okay, that's coming from right over here. So those are the two subdirectories. Okay, so what we want to do is this. Okay, we want to basically ensure that these are subdirectories. So what I'll do is I'll actually just copy this line of code over here, because we are going to reuse that, and we are also going to reuse this if condition. If stat is directory, so that ensures that the file is in fact a directory. And if it is a directory, what we want to do is we want to read that subdirectory inside subcommands folder. So if we are working with music first, we want to read all of the contents inside this directory. Okay, so that would give us EDM, index.js, and shuffle. So total of 3 files. One of them is a subdirectory, which is the group of our subcommand. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. If it's a directory, okay, we'll go ahead and declare a variable, and I'll call this subcommand directory files equals, and then I'll go ahead and call await fs.readdir, and then we're going to call path.join, and then we'll pass in file path and then file. Okay, so that will basically give me all of the contents inside of the subcommand folder, music and party. So watch this. If I console log this variable, which is going to be an array. Let's scroll up. You'll see that right over here. We have music. We have all of the contents, the file names, right? EDM, index.js, and shuffle.js. Then we have for party, we have group A, group P, and then the index.js and random.js file. Okay, so what we will essentially do first is we'll register the index.js file first. Okay, and the reason why is because this is the actual base/command instance. We need to instantiate this first so we can actually get the important part, which is the group commands map. And that is going to be the map that is going to allow us to actually set the actual group commands like this. Okay, so essentially we need to basically take the name of the subcommand, map it to the instance. So this part is the instance, and that instance is going to have its groups, okay, and then its own regular subcommands. So watch this. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and write a try catch. So try catch. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to go ahead and get the index.js file. Okay, so I'll just simply do const base subcommand. This is the variable name, and I'll import path.join. So file path and then file. So this will join together the file path, which is just going to be the directory, joined with the subdirectory itself. So it will take subcommands, join it with music, right? And then we want to get the index.js file. So we'll pass an index.js like this. Okay, so this will import the index.js file if it exists. So you must make sure you have the index.js file. Okay, I'll go ahead and console log this just to show you what it looks like, and I'll also console log the error too. Now let me go back into the index.js file, or I'm sorry, the main function, and let me just remove all of these logs, okay, because it's taking up a lot of space. But let me restart the bot. So watch this. See over here, it is logging music subcommand extends base/command. So we know that it exists, right? Of course, if I were to delete these files, it would throw an error, okay? But of course, you can also add an additional line to ensure that that file exists. So if you want to do that, you can just add this line over here, which I've already written when I was like testing everything out. But you can just do await fs.access, and then you can pass in the path that you want to access, okay? And then pass in the constants.fok. Constants you'll have to import from the fs library. Okay, and basically this allows you to determine what access you have to that file. So you can determine if it has read access, write access, etc., etc. So this will allow us to ensure that this file does exist. Okay, and if it throws an error, that means it doesn't exist. So you can add this line additionally if you want to. Just make sure you import constants like this up top here. But I'll delete this for now. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll get the base subcommand, and then now after we import the index.js file, we know that this will be an instance of base/command. Okay, so what I'll do next is this. I'll go ahead and create an instance of this base subcommand. Okay, and this base subcommand is going to be the instance that we're going to map the name of the subcommand to. So what that means is we'll take client, we'll reference /subcommands like this. So the same exact property that we had defined over here, that we attached to the client object right over here. And we'll do client./commands.set. And then we're going to set the key, which is going to be the file name. So that will be, in our case, it'll be music for the first time. And the second time it'll be party. So file and then subcommand. Okay, so doing this will create the structure right over here. Let me show you. So it will take the name of the file, the folder name, right, and it'll map it to the instance. Okay, obviously this looks a little bit weird right now, but don't worry. Okay, so we're going to set the name of the file to the instance, the subcommand instance. Okay, once we do that, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and reference the subcommand, right? And remember, the subcommand instance has a couple properties. It has name, groups, subcommands, and group commands. Okay, what we want to do is we want to set up a double for loop. And I know this is not the best idea, but of course, if you can think of a better, more optimized way to do this, please let me know down below in the comments. The reason why I say this is not the best method to do this is because if you set up another double for loop, the complexity of this whole function becomes O of, I think it's O cubed, which is not good. Okay, that's worse than O of n squared. Okay, but we'll just do it like this for now. So we'll set up a double for loop const. So we'll first iterate through the group. We'll iterate through all of the subcommand groups, right? So we're essentially just going to be iterating through this array over here. This is the groups array, okay? So we're going to do const group of subcommand dot groups, okay? And I'll log everything just to show you what it looks like, because I want to take everything step by step. So watch this. Right over here, it logged group A, and then it logged group B. So it logged it twice, or not logged it twice. It iterated twice. Okay, and then we're going to need another loop to iterate through the actual subcommands itself. So we'll do for const command of and group dot subcommands. Okay, and that group dot subcommands property comes from over here. Okay. So what we'll do here is inside here, I'll also log command right over here. So let me restart, and you'll see that it goes ahead and it logs the subcommands for the group. Okay. So what do we want to do inside this double for loop? Well, inside this for const command of group dot subcommands, so basically for every single subcommand, what we're going to do is we're going to import the subcommand, the group's subcommands class. Okay, and that is going to be a lot different than the actual base slash subcommand class. It's going to be different. Okay, and I'll show you how that class is going to look like right now. So here's what we'll do. So just for now, I'll just call this file base subcommand executor.js. Can't think of a better name because we already used base slash subcommand. I mean, and it doesn't really make, I mean, should I call this groups? Because I shouldn't really do that because it doesn't necessarily mean that the subcommand will be a group, but we'll just leave it like this for now. Okay, so this will basically be a class. So monster.exports equals class base subcommand executor. And this class will have a constructor. Okay, and actually, you know, yeah, I'll do it like this. So I'll have a constructor. It will take in 3 arguments: the base command name, so that'll be like the actual base command, so music, party, etc., right? The group that it belongs to, so if it's the party base command, it'll be group A or group B, and then the actual subcommand name. Okay, so we'll do this dot base command equals base command. This dot underscore group equals group, and these are all string values. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and set up the getters. So get base command. Okay. Get group. And then get name. So there we go. Okay. And then what we'll do is we will go ahead and extend this class for the actual subcommand that belongs inside its group file, or if it's just a regular subcommand that belongs to the base command. So I'll show you how this works. So what I'll do is I'll go into group A start.js. We'll go ahead and set up the class. So I'll call this party group A subcommand. Extends base base subcommand executor. Okay, and then we will need to import this. So let's do const base subcommand executor require utils. There we go. Okay. And cool. So what we'll do is this will implement the constructor. We'll take in the same exact arguments like this. Actually, wait, wrong class. Sorry. Let's go into here. Taking the same arguments, and we'll just call the superclass's constructor. Okay, so then, because remember, we inherit all of the methods and properties from the base subcommand executor class, so we don't need to redefine all of this stuff. The only method that we'll need to implement is the run method. Remember, like I said earlier, these files will have the run method. The base command will not. Okay, because remember, like I said, the base command must be used with an actual subcommand. Okay. So this will be the base, this will be the actual subcommand. And then, of course, the run function takes in two arguments, client and interaction. And then we'll just do interaction.reply, content, party, group A, subcommand. Okay? Cool. That's pretty much it for this part. So I'll just copy and paste this for every other file for party, and then we'll work with music later. Okay, we'll do party first. So this is going to be party group A, and it's supposed to be the end subcommand. Okay, and let me just go back here and just change this to party group A start subcommand. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing for group B. And then start command. Whoops. Okay, there we go. So we're done with group A and group B. We can go into the random.js file, paste this here. We'll just call this party random subcommand, change this to party random subcommand, and then we're good to go. Okay, so let's go back into the registry.js file. So what you're going to see here is we're going to use the double for loop, right? We're going to iterate through a group of subcommand groups. And then for each command, we're going to iterate through group.subcommands. Okay, so what we want to do is we basically want to import every single file that belongs to the group's subdirectory. So let me restart this real quick just to show you real quick. So you can see again. Let me do this. Let me just log the name of the group instead of the group object. Okay, so you have group A, and then you have two commands, start and end, and you have group B, start and end. Okay, so we want to basically import every single file that belongs into these two groups. Okay, and we do that inside this nested for loop inside over here. So what we'll do is inside the nested for loop, we'll go ahead and declare variable, and I'll call this subcommand class, and we'll just import. So we'll call path.join. We'll pass in the file path. Okay, file, so that'll be the base path, and then the file itself, which is just going to be the subcommand's folder. So in our case, it'll be music and then party. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll pass in the group's name. Okay, because remember, we need to make sure we are importing from the group subfolder, so group A, and then the command name. So we'll pass in just command, because remember, we're iterating through all these subcommands. Okay, so essentially this will end up looking like this. It will look like subcommands / music, and then /edm / play.js. That's how it would look like. Okay, and then of course for party, it would just do the same thing. It would look like /subcommands / party / group _A, and then start.js. And then since there's another file end.js, it would iterate once more, and then it would import end.js. Okay, so I'll console log subcommand class. Okay, now right now this will actually throw an error because we don't have anything for music. So let me just fix this real quick by doing that. So what I'll do, and also I need to fix this import, I just realized, because utils is not inside a nested folder. So we only need to go out of the subdirectory twice. Just wanted to fix that real quick. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let me copy this for random.js, and I'll paste this for shuffle. And I'll call this music shuffle. Okay. And then we'll go inside end.js, copy this. And then for play.js, I'll paste this in here. Import will be the same because we are in a nested directory, so we have to go out 3 directories. I'll rename this to music EDM play subcommand. Okay, so that is pretty much it for the music subcommand. Okay, so now let's run this and let's see what happens. Okay, so watch what just happened. So let's look over here. Group A, start. Okay, so we are working with, oh, actually, let's start from over here. So you can see over here, we have the EDM, or wait, music. We have the music subcommand, okay? It's logging the array of subcommands somewhere up top over here. I guess, oh yeah, right over here. It's logging all of those files right over here. Okay, then it's going to log the base subcommand, which in our case, it's music subcommand, which is this index.js file over here. Okay, that's important. And then afterwards, it logs the EDM and then it logs play. Okay, so EDM is going to be the group name and then play is the actual subcommand. Okay, and then what happens here is you can see that we are correctly importing that music EDM play subcommand file. That file comes from the correct folder, right? Music EDM play.js right over here. Okay, and of course, if there were any more files inside the EDM subfolder, that would also be imported as well. Okay, keep in mind that we are not importing, we have not done anything with the folders, or not the folders, the files outside of the subfolders, okay, outside of the group folders. So we have not registered shuffle.js yet. I'll show you how we can do that after. We're only working with the groups first, and then we'll register the actual subcommands after we register the groups. Okay, so we move on to party. You can see that it logs the array, and this is all of the files inside party. Okay, group A subfolder, group B subfolder, index.js, and random.js. So what happens here is it logs group A, which is the group name. It logs start, and then it imports party group A start subcommand. Not sure why it says function though. Let me see. I'm not sure why it's a function when it should be. It should be. Oh wait, what am I doing over here? Wait. Okay, I accidentally messed this up. Sorry about that. Not sure what was going on over here. Why is it doing this? Wait, hold on. What am I doing? You see how it's passing in parentheses? But it's not doing it for this though, which is really weird. Let me look at this real quick. Okay, so I'm not sure why it's doing this. I think it has something to do with my prettier extension, because it's automatically formatting this, which is really freaking annoying. And the reason why it's doing that is because the name of this is too long, so I'll just go ahead and just change this, honestly. It's really stupid. So I'll just change the name of the class, I guess, to avoid this issue from happening. There we go. That should fix that. Yeah, I didn't realize that it had a set of parentheses, which is why it was treating it like a function. But I'll fix that right now just to prevent any further issues. Okay, so let's just rerun everything and make sure that every single thing is a class. There we go. Okay, perfect. Okay, we have every single class file for our party and our music subcommands. So what we want to do from here is this. Okay, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and reference this subcommand instance, right? Remember, this is the base subcommand. That is the index.js class that we implement over here. So if it was the party command, it would be the party subcommand instance. If it was the music command, it would be the music subcommand instance, right? We want to reference this, and we want to go ahead and reference the, let me show you the property name real quick. We want to reference the group commands property right over here, okay? Because this is the collection. And then what we want to do is we want to go ahead and get all of the, we want to get the group for this subcommand, okay? So we're going to pass in group.name. Now, of course, the first time when you are registering your group commands, it's not going to be defined. So we'll have to check to see if it is defined or not. So I'll declare a variable. I'll use the let keyword because we will be modifying the value of this variable. I'll call this subcommand group map equals subcommand.groupcommands.get. Okay, so remember the subcommand instance, wherever it has this group commands property, which is a collection, and this, remember, this collection is responsible for mapping all of the group functions, or I'm sorry, not the group functions, the group subcommands. Okay, so let me just go ahead and show you this again. Okay, so this is what it looks like, right? Let me fix this up a little bit. So essentially, the instance would have this group subcommands. Is that what I called it? Yep, group commands property, right? And this basically just maps to this, something like that. It looks really similar like that. Okay, something like this. Let me fix up the formatting. I really shouldn't be using Notepad, but it's fine. Okay, so this is what that group commands property would look like, right? So we reference .group commands, and this is going to give us the actual map that will map all of the groups and its subcommands for us. Okay, so we're going to get the actual map, okay, and then what we want to do from here is we want to check to see if subcommand groups or subcommand group map, so the return value of this is truthy or not. So if it's truthy, that means that we already registered a group already. So all we'll need to do is we'll just need to go ahead and set, so subcommand group map.set, and then we'll pass in the name of the command, and then we'll create the instance of subcommand class like that. And then, of course, we'll need to pass in all of the arguments to that instance, right? Because remember, this is the base subcommand executor. So we'll need to pass in the base command group and then the name. So for the base, that's just going to be the file name, which is the directory name, right? For the group name, that'll just be group.name. And then for the command name, that'll just be command. And this value comes from right over here. Okay. If, however, the subcommand group map does not exist, all we'll do is we'll just reference subcommand group map, and then we'll instantiate it to be a new collection like this. So we need to make sure that collection is imported from Discord.js like that. And then what we do is we just simply do the same thing. So subcommand group map dot set command new subcommand class like that, and then we'll pass in the same exact arguments: file, group name, and command. Okay, once we have set up the group map, okay, basically this is responsible for knowing what groups are available, and then when we get the group map, we can get all these subcommands from that group. Okay, so once we do this, we just need to reference subcommand or subcommand.group commands. Okay, and then what we do here is this. We just do .set, and then we pass in the group name. Okay, and then we go ahead and pass in the map. Okay, because remember, group commands is going to have it's group commands is basically just a collection of all of the group names that map to its own collection. Okay, that's what this new collection part is for. Okay, it's basically mapping to its own collection like this. Okay, and so once we do that, all we need to do is this. So let me restart everything or restart the entire bot, and let me just show you what this looks like. So let me log client./commands. Actually, I'll log that right over. Yeah, we're already logging over here. So I'll just show you what it looks like in the console. Okay, so am I logging it? /commands. I don't think I'm logging the correct value. Let me check real quick. Oh wait, I'm logging the wrong one. It's supposed to be /subcommands. Whoops, sorry about that. Okay, so watch the map. Look at what it looks like. You have music. That is the name of the base subcommand. It maps to its instance that we defined inside index.js, right? That's the music file over here, music subcommand. And then that music subcommand has properties as the name, groups, right over here. It has subcommands, shuffle, which we have not registered yet. But then look at this group commands property. This group commands property is a collection, okay? And then this is a collection of all of the group's subcommands, okay? So we have one group called EDM. EDM maps to its own map, okay? And that map is going to have its own it's going to have its own subcommands. Okay, so I don't think we've actually done anything with that just yet, because we'll actually need to ensure that we are correctly setting that appropriately. Let me go ahead and show you one more thing. So what I want to do is I want to console log the group map, because I know this is really confusing for a lot of people. But I want to show you what the subcommand group map looks like, so you are aware of what's going on. So let me log this. Okay, so if you look over here, this collection and this collection. So these two collections are the group maps. Okay, this is the group map for group B, and it has its own collection, and it has the name of the subcommand that belongs to group B mapping to its instance. Okay, that is what's going on right over here. We're mapping the name of the command to the command's instance itself. Okay, that group map is going to be applied to the group's map itself, which is right over here. Okay, so this is the group. Okay, this is the group's commands collection, and this collection is going to map all of the group names to another group commands collection over here, which is what's going on here. Again, I know this is all confusing, but if you don't really care about this, I have all the code in a repository, so you can just copy it and you don't have to think much about it. Okay, the only thing that you need to understand is that this is going to take care of registering all of the groups, okay? And that's really all you need to worry about. So we're not done yet, because this only registered the groups and its instances, right? We have not registered the actual subcommands like random or shuffle. So this is a little bit tricky, but here's what we'll do, right? What I'll do is I'll actually do this. We have this subcommand directory files array, and if you look at this array, it actually gives you a list of all of the files that are being read from the directory, right? And we'll use this as a reference to know which files that we need to read. Okay, so what I mean by that is, for example, right, if you look at the console, it logs group A, group B, index.js, random.js, right? So what we'll do is, we already know that the index.js file does not need to be registered anymore, does not need to be processed anymore, because we already processed that file already. We already imported it, we instantiated it, and we mapped the subcommand's name to that instance, which is happening with this party subcommand and this music subcommand file. So what we can do is we can actually just remove that index.js value from the array. Okay, and then whenever we finish working with the groups, right, we can remove those names from the array, and then we'll just be left with all of the regular .javascript files that we have not worked with yet. So what I'll do, and I know this is kind of like a cheap way, but of course there are better ways to handle this, but I'll just show you how to do it this way. So here's what I'll do. I'll go ahead and get the index files position. So I'll store that in a variable called index file POS. And then, so we'll reference subcommand directory files. I'll call index of, I'll pass in the string index.js. And then I'll go ahead and call, or actually I'll do that right over, yeah, I'll do it over here. I'll go ahead and do subcommand directory files, splice. So we'll pass in the index file plus value. So that's going to be where we want to actually, that's going to be the index of where we want to remove the element, and then we'll remove 1. So this will delete the index.js string from the array. Okay. And what we're going to do after is every single time we register our groups, we'll remove the group name from the array. So we'll do that right over, let's see, I'll probably do that outside of the second for loop. So right over here. So right over here. So what we'll do is we'll get the file index. So subdirectory files, index of, and then we'll pass in group name. And then we'll remove that group name from the subdirectory files array. So splice, file index, delete 1. And then let's go ahead and I'll show you what this looks like. So I'm going to console log subcommand directory files. And you'll see right over here, we're left with random.js for the, I think this is for party, right? Yeah. And then for music, we should only be left with shuffle.js, which is supposed to be, yep, up top over here. Okay, so that's good. We are removing everything but the remaining files. Of course, if I had more files, they will be displayed over there too. Okay, so what we'll do from here is we'll basically just loop through the subcommand directory files. So the remaining files that we have not worked with yet. So const subcommand file of subcommand directory files. So we'll loop through the remaining files. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and import that file. So we'll call path.join and we'll pass in the file path. So this file path, remember, comes from up top over here. And then we're going to join it with file, which is the directory name. So either it's music or party. And then we want to join it with the subcommand file name. So subcommand file like that. So that'll essentially just join together everything to give us the file path to random.js for the party group or the party subcommand and shuffle.js for the music subcommand. Okay. And then what we can do from here is we can instantiate the subcommand by doing const cmd equals new subcommand like that. Okay. And then we can just pass in the properties that we need, or the arguments for the constructor. So we'll need the base command, group, and name. Okay. So for the base command, I'll just be a file group. I don't think this will belong to a group, so we'll just pass in null. And then for the name, that'll just be, I guess, subcommand. Actually, wait a minute. For name, I think for name we can just actually do this. I think for name we'll just do null, and then what we'll do is this. We'll pass in already like that. Okay, and we'll do the same thing for shuffle.js. because there's no, I mean, you can get the name of the file by just, you can just get the name of the file and remove the JS part, but I'm not going to do that because I think that's not good, because the name of that should be whatever we said here. So let me fix this real quick. So let me just change this to what is this, shuffle. So I'll remove this. Okay, that's fine. So when we create the instance, we'll only expect the base of the command. Okay, so once we do that, all we need to do from here is this. We need to get the subcommand instance from client.subcommands collection. So const subcommand instance equals client./subcommands.get, and we want to go ahead and pass in the name of the file, or the file variable, because that's going to give us the subcommand name. So either it's music or party, right? Remember, that's how we are mapping everything, right? Music or party. And then what we want to do here is we want to reference subcommand instance. We want to go ahead and reference the group commands property. Okay, and then because this subcommand is not part of a group, it's not a group subcommand, right? It's just going to be a regular subcommand. So we'll just call set, pass in the command's name, so cmd.name, and then pass in the command instance itself. Okay, and then let's just go ahead. I'm going to remove all the console logs, and I'll console log to you the final result, just so that you can all see everything without everything being cluttered. So let's restart everything and watch this. So now you have your collection of /subcommands. You have EDM, which is a group. Okay, that maps to a collection. And if the command is not a collection, or I'm sorry, if the command is not a subcommand group, right, if it's shuffle, it maps to its instance, and that instance itself has its run method. Okay, same thing with party. We have the random command. Okay, and then you can see over here, I guess it doesn't want to show it because we have, actually, what's going on over here? I'm not sure why. Let's see, what happened to group B? Oh, I think something went wrong over here. Cannot find module party group B. That is interesting. So apparently it's complaining about group B for some reason. I'm not sure why. Oh, I know why. I messed up all of this code over here. So everything that has to do with removing the group name from the array and iterating through subcommand file, that needs to be outside of this for loop over here. I kind of messed up. I think I accidentally placed it there, but it's fine. So outside of the first for loop. Okay, that's how it should work. So let's go ahead and rerun this, and we should have no error. What's going on? Group is not defined. Let's see what's going on over here. Let me see. Oh wait, whoops. Sorry. These two lines over here belong right over here, and then this for loop belongs over here. Okay, let's restart, and there we go. Okay, so now we have our collection. You can see that we have our music, party. Party has group A, group B, and then it has its own subcommand, which should be called random. Oh wait, I named it party by accident. There we go. Restart. There we go. So random, party random subcommand, group A, group B, and of course group A, if it's a group, it's going to map to a collection. If it's not a group, it'll just map to its own subcommand instance. Okay, so I know this was a lot, but don't worry, we're almost at the end. What we need to do next is this. We need to do the same exact thing that we did with our regular / commands, right? We basically need to get every single instance of our base /subcommand, and we need to call get /command JSON, right? Because remember, music is mapping to music subcommand, and music subcommand is the class that has the get/command JSON method. Same thing with party subcommand. Okay, so literally what we're doing here, we're going to do the same thing for the subcommand. So const/subcommands JSON equals client./subcommands.map command, and then we'll do command command.get/command JSON. And I think, let me just verify, yep, the method call. Okay, good. And then you're going to see that this will literally just be an array of all of the /commands with subcommands. So let me restart. Okay, there you go. You have your subcommands. Okay, just make sure that you do not have any overlap between subcommands and commands. So what I mean by that is, if you register your subcommands inside a subcommands folder, do not register those commands inside the commands folder. Otherwise, you will run into issues. For example, I have this party command over here. If I register this, I'm going to have an issue with my subcommand. So I should actually delete this. So let me just delete this. There we go. Okay. So now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and just combine these two arrays. So combine the /command JSON array and /subcommands JSON array. So we can easily just do that by doing .. /commands JSON. Same thing with /subcommands JSON. So that's just unpacking the values. Okay, and then all of this will just be passed to the Discord API, and it'll register everything for you. And I'll go ahead and console log registered /commands just so you can see that it is going to be registered to the Discord API. So you can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you can see that we have our party and music application commands, right? And party has 3 options, right? Because it has 2 subcommand groups and 1 regular subcommand. And then music has 1 subcommand group and then 1 regular subcommand. So it works. Of course, if I were to have kept that party subcommand inside this commands folder, there would have been issues. Okay, so just don't do that. Okay, so now that we have actually registered the actual subcommands with the Discord API, okay, we can actually handle whenever we are issuing a subcommand. So I'll show you how we can do that. So first, let me just go into my Discord and I'll show you that we have registered everything. So right over here on my server, you can see that I have the music EDM play, music shuffle, mute, party, commands, everything. Okay, if I were to use this, nothing's going to happen right now. It says this command has no run method, and that's coming from this logic over here. Don't worry about that right now. What we need to do is we need to go ahead and call this method interaction dot options get subcommand. Okay, and required for this we need to pass in false, otherwise it's going to throw an error. Okay, because there's a chance that if we do issue a regular command that is not a subcommand, this is going to throw an error. So you need to make sure you set this to false. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just call this variable subcommand name, and then we'll also get the subcommand group by calling interaction options get subcommand group, passing false as well. Okay, so what we'll do here is we'll check to see if it is a subcommand. Okay, so basically what happens is this will return the subcommand that was executed if it was in fact a subcommand. If it wasn't, it'll return null. So what I'll do is I'll console log both subcommand group and subcommand name. Okay, let me restart the bot. So I will go ahead and use the mute command and look at the logs. You'll see it logs null and null, okay, which makes sense because those are that mute command does not belong to a group. It's not a subcommand, okay, so it's going to log null for both. Now, if I were to use the music EDM play, the group would be EDM and then the subcommand would be play. Look at the logs, EDM play. Okay, it's logging group command, the subcommand group, and then the name. Now, what if I were to use the, let's do music shuffle. Okay, it would log null shuffle because the group is null. Okay, so what we want to do first is we want to check to see if it is a subcommand. Because if it is a subcommand, then we need to handle it differently from our regular /chat input commands. Okay, so if it is a subcommand, okay, so one thing that I will mention is that the subcommand, if it is a subcommand, that value will always be null, or I'm sorry, that value will never be null if it is a subcommand. Okay? So one thing that I do need to mention is that when we are working with subcommands, right, the subcommand name will never be null when we are using subcommands. Okay, you can look at the console over here, play, shuffle. Those are the subcommand names. Those are not null. Okay, now if we are working with subcommand groups, and those will be defined. If we aren't working with subcommand groups, those will be null. Okay, so because of the way that we are handling our subcommands, right? Because if you recall, if you look at our /subcommands collection, okay, I'm not logging it right now, but let me log it again just to make sure that you all can see everything. Okay, because I want to make sure I'm not explaining things without actually showing. So let me rerun the bot. So look over here. Whoops. Why is it not logging? Is it lagging or something? Or oh wait, I forgot to. I have to put it after register subcommands. Let's fix that. Okay, so look over here. Okay, so if it is a group, right, we need to check if it's a group, because the way that we handle group commands, group subcommands are different from regular subcommands. Okay, because if it is a subcommand group, right, we need to figure out which subcommand it is that's part of the group that we are executing. Okay, that's why handling subcommands are a lot more difficult than handling just regular /commands, because if it is a group, we need to check which group it is, or which subcommand it is for that group. Okay, so what we'll do is if subcommand name, we will then check if subcommand group is defined. If subcommand group is defined, that means that this command was executed under a group. So we'll need to get the we'll need to make sure we get the correct groups map. So here's what we'll do. We will go ahead and reference client./subcommands. We'll call .get, and we want to make sure we pass in the base subcommand. And to get the base subcommand, you can just grab that from referencing command name. Okay, so I think I actually got this earlier off camera. Like I wasn't recording this, but up top over here, you can just destructure the command name from the interaction object. Actually, no, we got this in the previous episode. What am I talking about? So this is going to be the base command name. Okay, so let me just show you real quick. Let me log this. So you have the base command name, which is going to be either party or music. And then you have the subcommand group and the subcommand name. So we'll pass in command name. This will get you the correct instance. Either it's going to be music subcommand or party subcommand, depending on which one we execute. After we get the instance, so let me do this, const subcommand instance. Okay. What I will do is I'll go ahead and get the subcommand instances group commands. And then I'll pass in the group. Okay. So this is if it's a group. So we'll pass in subcommand group. Okay. And then from here, we can actually just call .get again, because this returns a collection, right? Because remember, the group name is mapping to a collection. So we can just call .get again. And then we can just pass in the name of the subcommand right over here. Okay. And then we can just go ahead and call the run function and then pass in the client and interaction object. Okay, because remember, that collection is mapping all of these instances over here. Okay, so this is only if it's a subcommand group. If it's not a subcommand group, then all we will need to do, well, first we'll just get the subcommand instance. Okay, and then what we can do is we can just reference subcommand instance, and we can just go ahead and I guess call group commands dot get, and instead of passing the group name, we'll just pass in the subcommand name, I believe. Yeah, subcommand name like this, right? And that will give you the instance, and then we can just call .run and just pass in the client interaction objects. Okay, so let me show you how this works now. Okay, and also let me just return over here because we don't want to execute this logic over here. Okay, so now let's test everything out. Let's make sure everything works because we did write a lot of code. So let's go ahead and start off with music EDM play. So this is a group subcommand. You can see that it is returning music EDM play subcommand. Now let's try music shuffle. So this is a regular subcommand. It gives you music shuffle subcommand. Okay, let's go ahead and execute the others. Party group A subcommand. Let's try the party random. There we go. So we have a working subcommand system. Okay, so let me go ahead and create another subcommand just to show you how this works, or you just test it again, right? So let's create another subcommand. Remember, our subcommands must have a subfolder, the name of the subcommand. Inside that subfolder must have an index.js file. We'll just copy and paste the one from music into here. I'll call this games subcommand. Name this to games. Let's have 3 groups this time. Let's have a group for Monopoly, one of my favorite games. Okay. Let's have a group for Life. And let's have a group for, what's another board game? Uno. And then we won't have any other subcommands, so we'll just pass in an empty array. Okay. And what we'll do is we'll go over here and we will need to, of course, modify our slash commands. So what I'll do is we'll set the name to games command. So for the first group, it'll be Monopoly. And then we'll just change the description. And we'll have another group. So we'll have 2 more groups, right? So Monopoly, Life, and then the last one was Uno, another one of my favorite games. Okay, so we have 3 subcommands. Okay, and essentially, or I'm sorry, we have 3 subcommand groups. So what that means is inside the games folder, we need to create 3 folders. So one for Monopoly, one for Life, and then one for Uno. Okay, and then for each subfolder, so for Life, we need to have the same file name that matches the subcommand name. So it's just going to be play.js. Okay, I'll just copy the music EDM play subcommand and paste it here. So I'll just rename this to play Monopoly. Okay, and I'll just call this play Monopoly. Copy this, or actually this is Life. Whoops. Save. Let's create a new file over here. Play.js. Play Monopoly. Okay, and then Uno. Play Uno subcommand. Okay, and then now, because I have this index.js file, it's going to register everything. Okay, and watch this. So I'm going to go ahead and restart. Okay, now we have our games subcommand right over here, and it has all of its groups. Okay, and watch this. If I were to do slash, I can see I have games Monopoly play, games Life play, games Uno play. Okay, and I can use that. Of course, if I were to create a regular file inside the game subcommand, and I can just call this whatever I want. I'll just call this games quick start.js, and I'll just copy this shuffle command and paste it here. Games quick start, and I'll just pass in quick start. like that. So that's going to be the name of the subcommand. Again with the function, that's kind of annoying. I'll just call this quick start subcommand. And then I'll just rename this to quick start. Let's save. And so this is a regular, actually, you know what? I actually messed up. I forgot to add the subcommand as well. Let me do that real quick. Important to remember this. Set name, quick start, set description, quick start game. Let's save and restart. Okay, so now we should see all of our commands. So let's do games, and you can see games quick start is over here. If I hit enter, there you go. It works. So we have a working subcommands system, and that is going to be pretty much it for this video. I do apologize for the video being incredibly long, but I wanted to be as detailed as possible with showing you how to handle subcommands dynamically. So yeah, this is one way they can do it. If you can think of a better way to structure everything, definitely let me know down below in the comments. But all of the code will be in the description, so you don't have to worry if you are a little bit confused with certain things. You can just go to the GitHub repository, and you can just go ahead and take a look at everything that I did in this video, okay? So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Peace out.